It's 9 o'clock. Alors, pour ceux qui parlent en français, il fallait venir hier. Et vous pouvez regarder à nouveau les vidéos en français. Elles sont enregistrées et elles seront disponibles. For those who prefer English, the conferences were recorded yesterday, and they will be available. But of course, you have the right to come back and listen to the conference in French yesterday and in English today. But don't be surprised, it will be quite the same. Hello, Antoinette. Hello, Ahmed. I cannot tell hello to everybody. Nice to meet you. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I will begin now. And first of all, I would like to thank you, all the doctoral students who connected this morning, and also to tell thank you to the faculty member who connect this morning also. As I did it yesterday in French, I will introduce the three conferences of the morning, 45 minutes conferences. And the common point about these three conferences is academic integrity. So academic integrity has been chosen as the main topic for this Spring International Seminar. And so, first of all, the agenda of the morning. It's about, I just told you, academic integrity. I will make a conference which topic will be, why is Business Science Institute concerned by academic integrity? That's a big question, and I have to explain that, and I will give you some answer. Then on 10 o'clock Paris time, you will have a conference of Professor Bengozi about plagiarism, fraud, and academic ethics, the new research framework, perception of plagiarism, and the responses to be given. And then at the end, at the conclusion of the morning, Professor Michel Bergada, with the founder of IRAFPA, an international organization that is fighting against plagiarism. Professor Bergada will give us a talk about artificial intelligence, reinventing the design and production of doctoral theses and academic publication. And of course, Professor Michel Bergada will talk about ChatGPT. We all have heard since January about ChatGPT. And of course, there is a huge question for us. There is a huge question for the doctoral students. There is a huge question for the faculty member. How we will manage ChatGPT. Some institution decided to forbid the ChatGPT. For us, it does not make sense. Can we forbid internet? Can we forbid social network? And the answer is no. And Professor Michel Bergada will give us some answer about the real meaning of the thesis and research in DBA. All these conferences have been organized for this spring seminar because we consider that academic integrity is something important. It's an important issue. It's an important challenge. And I want, in my introduction of the morning, to explain why it is a big challenge. To understand why it is a big challenge, first of all, I have to remind everybody, all the participants, English speaking, Business Science Institute, where are we today? Because we changed, there is an evolution. As you know, we have been created 10 years ago. we are, and very proud about that, one of the few DBA internationally accredited by AMBA since December 2020. And we will face a renewal process in September 2023, just at the beginning of our international week in Luxembourg. And I hope that you will be available to participate to this international week. You know, we are part of the international ranking. We don't trust a lot about the ranking, of course, but we are part of them, and we have to quote that. More important, we have today 230 plus current students coming, and that's an important point for us, coming from 50 countries, 50 countries. 50 countries which are in different environment with geographical difference, cultural difference, and so we have to manage that. We have to integrate that in our process, and that's why also academic integrity is important. The average age of our doctoral students is 46 years old, so it means that's people with maturity, experience, and so on. We have a very huge experience of DBA program in the world because we opened 60 plus group in more than 10 countries, and our students are from 47 different nationalities. The main point we are proud about is the number of theses defended, because it demonstrates that our process is well functioning. 133 DBA theses have been defended, and we have 4 more this afternoon, and I welcome the students who will defend their thesis this afternoon. And we have more than 100 professors that who are officially qualified to supervise the research. We teach in 3, we teach in 3 languages, French, English, German, and we are working on the translation of our website in Spanish. And 2 of my colleagues are working to constitute a faculty, a Spanish faculty. And we have published 40 plus books in the Business Science Institute collection published by EMS in paper and online version. And what is important to mention here is that half of these books have been published by our professor, and half of these books have been published by our doctor. And we know that the publication of the books by our doctor is a source of impact. Very often when we have an interview with our alumni, we manage by now with Stephen around 60 interview of half an hour to 1 hour with different alumni. And they told us, those who publish a book, they told us that there is a first impact of the DBA at the time of the defense, and there is another impact 9 months, 12 months after, when they publish a book. And so we are quite unique, you know, and we can say that we are proud to be one of a kind. Yes, we are unique. We are unique, I think, in the world because we are a network organization specialized in the DBA. We work only on one program, the DBA program. And because I am a professor of strategy, I can say that specialization is connected with efficiency. Because we focus all our human resources on one program, we are more efficient, you know. We have not to manage bachelor, master, and so on. So specialization is related to some characteristic of our program. The second point, explaining that we are unique, Our single objective is not the registration of the students. Our single objective is to support the students until the defense, accompany you and support the project. That's really our main objective. I always say to doctoral students, the main issue is not your registration. The main issue is the defense. The third point explaining that we are quite unique is our focus on impact creation. All our theses must have a content on managerial recommendation. It means that a DBA is more than a degree. A DBA is impact creation with managerial recommendation. And that's important, and you will see in the conference of Professor Bergada that in a thesis, the important point is to create knowledge. And so when you create knowledge, you are unique, you are original. And in fact, there is no plagiarism or ChatGPT problem. The fourth point of differentiation is our network of international professors. And this international professor, they have a unique doctoral expertise and a very large depth, very large competencies in different fields. We are proud also of our responsive administrative and pedagogical support. The students always tell us that our support team is very efficient. And we want also our dedicated professor to be responsive. And we have implemented a tracking system to supervise the relationship between the supervisor and the candidate. And so we have a tracking system of the interaction between supervisor and candidate. We have, of course, a partnership since a very long time now with IAE Lyon. And one characteristic of Business Science Institute, which makes us unique, is we are multi-format, multi-language, and multi-country program. And we have the only collection of books in the world devoted to the DBA. And of course, I mentioned that before, we are internationally accredited, and we are an affordable program because we are a non-for-profit organization. That's the last point, but I know that that's important in some country and for some students. How did we get there? How did we create an international program which is today a recognized huge international program? Three answers. And again, maybe it's because I am professor of strategy that I give this answer. Our mission, very clear. Make the DBA internationally accessible and affordable in all countries. That's why before COVID crisis, we organized online our seminar. We have a vision. The vision is that the DBA market is growing for different reasons. One of the reasons is that because of the crisis that I just mentioned, we have to reconsider business model. And the other reason is that MBA does not permit today to make the differentiation in big companies. And we have a very clear strategy, specialization, with the distinction between DBA and PhD. PhD for academic, DBA is for manager, development, and we are developing a new group specialized in public management, real estate. We work also in the field of healthcare, and we have interesting partnership with academic partners. So I presented Business Science Institute. Now I have to tell you, I have to give you the answer. Why is Business Science Institute concerned by academic integrity? Maybe the first answer could be to please my colleague, Professor Bergada and Professor Bengozi, who are going to give 2 lectures on the theme of academic integrity this morning. even if they are very much involved in IRAFPA, Institute for Research and Action on Academic Fraud, created in 2016, even if they are friends, even if they are involved in academic integrity, I cannot tell you that it is the reason. No. You don't put a decade's worth and effort into academic integrity just to please your colleagues, no matter how talented they are. And you understand that there is a smiley faces here. And I thank you, my colleague, but they are not responsible of this investment since 10 years. So why? By personal conviction? By belief? No, I'm not the kind of man as a founder of president of Business Science Institute that is managing the non-for-profit institution by personal conviction or by belief. I'm not this kind of man. No, the reason is not here. So why? Where do we find the reason? We find the reason in the core business of Business Science Institute. The reason is that our core business is knowledge creation by manager, and impact creation. As I told before, for us, the DBA is more than just a qualification, more than just a degree. One of the first books that we published, I'm sorry, it was a book in French and we didn't translate it. One of the first books that we published, at that time we were teaching in French, was La création de connaissances par les managers. And of course, you understand the creation of knowledge by manager. It was a basic book for us, a very important book, in which we said, we consider that manager can create knowledge. And you must imagine that when we said that, some traditional colleagues were very surprised, because they consider in university that faculty has the monopoly of knowledge creation. So we can say that we were quite innovative and also quite disruptive. But because our core business is knowledge creation, there are some consequences. And you know, since the beginning, it means in 2012, 2013, we have drawn students' attention to one aspect of academic integrity. Since the first seminar that I organized with 4 students at that time, and I did it each time we open a new group in the world. Since the beginning, we told to the student, we told to the students, take care to plagiarism. At that time, we didn't say academic integrity, I must tell you. We said, take care to plagiarism. And how did we manage that? We managed that in a different way. First of all, we gave to our students access from the first day to the software, to the detection software. At that time, the name was Ephorus, and today it's Turnitin or Turnitin. And since the beginning, the students, they can check by themselves. Not all of them do it, but all of them, they know that we do it. And so it was a way for us to tell our community, to tell our doctoral students, take care, we will check, because for us, it's a fundamental issue. And so it was the first way we explained that to our students. Also, since during the first seminar, during the first session, and it was one of my very first slides, I highlighted the risk of plagiarism. We also put on Moodle, on our web portal, documents on plagiarism. And when Professor Bergada in 2015 published a book on le plagiat académique, the academic plagiarism, we distribute this book to all our students. And also, we involve Business Science Institute in a formal SGS, it was the name of a private company, anti-plagiarism certification, and we obtained this certification in 2016. And then Professor Bergada created IRAFPA, certification process, and we begin to go through this process also. That's what we did historically. You know, I want to tell you that academic integrity is not only an update question. We are working on that in the beginning. And we are working on that since the beginning because for us, the risk of non-compliance with academic integrity is huge for doctoral students. And we always explain that there are two kinds of risk: immediate risk and deferred risk. The immediate risk is loss of the thesis supervisor. You will not have one member of our faculty community who will agree to supervise the thesis of students if they know that these students has a culpability of plagiarism. And of course, for me, it's a big deal, big challenge, because it's impossible to find a new one. When I propose to a colleague to supervise the thesis, I explain the context. And if the new colleague, they know that the students done plagiarism, they will refuse. And very often the students will withdraw from the program. And Frédéric, who is online, can say withdraw from the program without refunding of the fees paid, of course. There is another kind of risk. We call it deferred risk. As you know, the theses now, they are online. And a few years after the defense, you can find a journalist, you can find somebody who discover the plagiarism in your thesis. And at that time, you will loss of title, and also loss of reputation, disgrace. And, you know, what I'm talking about here, it's a real problem. It's not the result of my imagination. Just have an example. It is, you know, we are based in Luxembourg. Here you have the photo of the Prime Minister of the Luxembourg. Okay, or the article it's a French newspaper, but it's not a French story. Just have a look here. It is a Guardian. And in the Guardian, you see a big article on the Prime Minister of the government of Luxembourg, who is guilty of plagiarism, maybe 20 years after the defense of his not doctoral thesis, master thesis. And you see in the title, only 2 pages of Luxembourg's Prime Minister university thesis were not plagiarized. You can imagine the situation. He was not obliged to dismiss because of that. But you can imagine the consequences when 20 years after, you have to recognize that you have been guilty. Here it's another article on the same topic on Euronews. It means that all the European media communicated on that. So I hope that you are convinced that there is the immediate risk and there is the long-term risk. That's the risk for the doctoral students. What are the risks for Business Science Institute? For Business Science Institute, there is a risk to reputation, of course, in media, in the press, on social network, a risk of credibility, credibility of the defense, credibility of the degree, credibility of the article published, and also there is a risk of non-accreditation or re-accreditation. We cannot face this risk. And you know, when you manage an organization, either a private organization, either a non-for-profit organization, you have to consider the strategic risk. And for us, for me, as the founder and president, for me, I consider that plagiarism, non-academic integrity, is a strategic risk in terms of doctoral students' confidence. Do new students will register if they know that there is some plagiarism? I have some doubts about that. In terms of graduate confidence, in terms of stakeholders' confidence, and I had to add in terms of faculty confidence. Do you imagine that the faculty, more than 100 international faculty, they will continue to work with us if we tolerate such practices? So it is therefore what I call a major risk for Business Science Institute. And so to manage this major risk, we take care at the beginning of the program, we take care when the certificate of research in business administration happen, and we take care at the time of the thesis defense. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned that before we work on the professor awareness raising, training, so on. We inform also all our students. I told that before. At the time of the certification in research and business administration that took place yesterday afternoon, we systematically test all the documents. And if we see any problem, we interact with the students. And here we have our process, and in our process, it is a process for this seminar. You can see here in January, anti-plagiarism feedback. We check systematically and we interact if we think that there is a problem. And at the time of the defense, it is the same thing. Anti-plagiarism feedback and interaction with the students. We consider that it is part of our job. Operational part of the job in relation with strategic part of our job. But you must know that academic integrity is a broad concept. I mean that it is more than plagiarism. Plagiarism is one part of academic integrity. We call it integrity of sources. But there is other issue in the field of academic integrity. It is integrity of data. Where do they come from? How were they collected? When? From whom? By who? Under what condition? Questionnaire, face-to-face interview, online survey. you have to say in detail how the data were collected. How were they processed? Is the data collected, are they collected with anonymity? Do you have the name of the people? Do the people agree that you communicate on their name? Do you have written agreement of these people? How do you communicate on your data to the examination panel? You know that we ask to all our students to put in appendices all the data collected. We call it the sources. It is, if it is online survey, it means the basic data that you collected. If it is interview, it means the transcription of all the interview. You have to put in the thesis all the data you collect. And so you will permit to the panel, to the member of the jury, to check and to make the relationship between data, analysis, conclusion, recommendation. The last question about the data. How were they disseminated? There is another point, and maybe we have to progress on that point. I'm not sure that we have always been very clear on that point. It is integrity of roles. On a doctoral program, you know, and it's part of the way we function and we consider the DBA because you are executive manager, it is possible to be helped. For us, it's not a problem. And you know, it's quite the same for a traditional PhD, but it should be specified. Did you add some help with the bibliography? We know that Aline, who is a doctor in social science, is helping some of our students because for the bibliography. Did you add some help with summarizing the literature? We know that we organize some seminar on the analysis of the bibliography, the literature. Maybe you use some software. Help for data processing. Some students ask for the help of Professor Moscarola or Le Sphinx. It's an opportunity, but you have to mention it. Help for writing, help for copy editing, help for translating. Our point is to say very clearly how people help you and what you did. Clearly state at the beginning of the thesis, generally when you say thank you to these people, to ensure what we call transparency. The question is, what do we do when we face plagiarism? If plagiarism, our reaction depends on the degree of plagiarism. When we think that there is plagiarism, we discuss with the doctoral students and we ask correction. Sometimes it's voluntary plagiarism, sometimes it's involuntary plagiarism. And if we are convinced that there are a lot of plagiarism, and sometimes I faced in the past 1 or 2 cases like that at the beginning of Business Science Institute, we refuse to send the thesis to external examiner because we know how they could answer to that situation. And so you will face the risk to not be able to defend your thesis. In conclusion, I would like to say that a DBA is a thesis, you know that. A thesis involves the creation of knowledge. And a thesis is mainly an individual piece of work, even if you can be helped. And this individual piece of work requires transparency and require academic integrity. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your time. And now I can answer either to your question, either to your comment. And then I will give the floor on 10 o'clock Paris time to Professor Pierre-Jean Bengozi, who will come back on that topic. Let's go. Some questions, some comments. Is it clear for you? I didn't say hello to everybody who is connected this morning. Some colleagues, thank you for coming again. I saw that some professors, they were here yesterday, Professor Françoise Chevalier. So Françoise, you check what I said in English and you check if it is the same that what I said yesterday in French.
It's just very interesting. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for participating. You know, I must say that I'm very surprised by the participation of the faculty to these conferences, because they were informed about that, but we didn't ask them to participate. It was just an information. And yesterday morning, 24 faculty members took part of their time to participate. And, you know, it's a demonstration of our vibrant community. We were very surprised about that. Thank you for being here. And thank you also to the students. I didn't tell hello to all the students personally, but I see some faces. Thank you for being here. Some comments, some question. I take some water. A question that I have to check on the chat.
Stella wanted to make a point.
Yes, of course. Let's go.
So thank you very much, Professor Kalika. I was attending yesterday conference and was not able to connect so early today, but thank you so much. And so I would like to say that not everyone was able to participate in my group. For example, Paris 5, I know that people were keen on having so the content about the conference. And I so made a lot feedback yesterday about it. But if there is a replay, which could be
absolutely.
It will be nice also for people who were not able to attend.
Of course, we know that it is in the morning or the evening. People are working, and we know that they cannot all connect. But all the three conferences in French have been recorded. The three conferences in English will be recorded, and you will receive, all the students, they will receive the link, of course, of these conferences. We know that, you know, in terms of impact, we know that we have more impact after the conferences than during the conferences.
Indeed.
That's why we record. That's why we are online, you know. Thank you very much for these comments. Frederic is taking care about that.
Thank you.
There is an important point made by Dr. Vanji Augustin regarding the percentage of plagiarism.
Okay, yes, excuse me. Thank you, Professor Pierre-Jean Bengozi, for being here. And I missed that. I made that point. Okay. You know, Professor Bengozi, you can answer after. It's not a question for us of percentage, because you have to know that the percentage that does not always make sense. I explain myself. For example, you put your document in the software the first time. If you put it a second time, the same document, you will have a rate of plagiarism nearly 100%. So we don't have a look only on the rate. And for me, when I check all the document, I don't have a look on the rate. I'll have a look on the text in which there is the identification of all the part of the text that has been plagiarized. You must know that the software, they don't detect the comma, les guillemets, the comma, yes, that's right. The quoting. The software, they don't detect the quoting of the bibliography. So there is, and of course the bibliography, it's exactly the same that in the database. So they don't detect that. That's why in all documents, there is a rate of plagiarism. But I must tell you that what I have a look on is the sources, because when there is plagiarism, there is the indication of the sources. Which kind of database or which kind of website the data are coming from. And I take care also to have a look, you know, if the plagiarism is for 3 words, it does not make sense. But if the plagiarism is from 10, 15, 20 lines, but a global paragraph, there is a problem. When you take some document from other document, always quote. Did the answer is clear? Do you want to add something, Professor Bengozin? You mute.
I have to. No, it's completely. We should ask to Augustin what if it's. No, I completely agree with you. The point, when you look carefully to the way the software are working, as a matter of fact, the person, it's useful in order to identify which part of the paper should be risky, I should say. Well, because it can happen, for example, when you made a paper, you take notes and you forgot to put the reference. So it was very useful to have to check your paper in order that you should be able to identify clearly where which part come from and where are the reference. But it's not only a question of percentage, because of, as a matter of fact, you can have self reference if you already put another paper to be controlled. It could be also all the references can be considered as plagiarism, because every researcher makes the reference of the same way. So the software can consider, and you just cut and paste. But no, it's not only the basic way to quote a paper. So do not just look to the number, but look more precisely to how and which part of the paper are considered to be copied or to be verified, and which part of the paper should be quote if necessary, or should be changed in order to rewrite the idea you promote in your words, and not only just cutting and pasting what has been made by other colleagues.
Time is over. Do you have another question? Another point? It's okay. You know, it's a kind of conclusion. You know, in a thesis, you have to create knowledge, but the creation of knowledge is always based on our knowledge. Just quote this other knowledge. You know, you have the legitimacy to say Mintzberg presented the organization structure, so on. Okay, you say that this classification, this idea is coming from Mintzberg. You can say Herbert Simon and so on. Just say where data, where your idea are coming from. We have to distinguish clearly the added value of the other and your added value. That's the purpose. That's a part of intellectual integrity and academic integrity. Okay, if there is not any other question, I will have to thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for participating, and see you soon. And on 10 o'clock Paris time, in 14 minutes, I will give the floor to my colleague Pierre-Jean Bengozi. Bye-bye. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the doctoral students. Thank you for the faculty.